Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive.
And honestly, I don't think we've ever had a topic quite this, this explosive to dive into. I mean, crisis almost feels like an understatement.
You could say that again. It's
Yeah.
January 2026, and if you're a rugby fan, your jaw is probably still on the floor.
Oh, for sure.
Normally, this time of year, we're, debating preseason fitness or looking at new jerseys. Instead, New Zealand rugby hasn't just shaken things up.
They've detonated the whole building.
Exactly. We are talking about the All Blacks, maybe the most consistent sports team on the planet, suddenly looking like they are in a total free fall.
It's a massive vacuum. And just to set the scene for everyone, because the news is moving so fast, Scott Robertson, the man they call Razor,
The breakdancing genius of the Crusaders.
he's been sacked as head coach. And if that wasn't, enough instability, the CEO of New Zealand Rugby, Mark Robinson, is also packing his bags.
Yeah, Robinson stepping down, citing family reasons, a move to Australia. That's the classic corporate line, isn't it?
It always is.
But when you look at the timing, you have the head coach gone and the chief executive gone at the exact same time. It's meant to be a state of certainty, but the only certainty right now is that nobody is at the wheel.
It's completely unprecedented. I mean, usually New Zealand Rugby is the absolute gold standard for succession planning.
Oh, they're a machine.
A machine that just keeps humming while everyone else panics. They usually know who the next coach is 3 years before the current one even thinks about leaving. But right now, we are looking at a complete hard reset.
Which is what makes this deep dive so fascinating. We're not just going to gossip about who got fired. We had this incredible stack of sources today, focusing on a conversation between two absolute legends of the game.
Springbok giant Victor Matfield and all-black icon Sir John Kirwan.
I loved this exchange.
Yep.
He's from the Rivals podcast, and honestly, the banter is just top tier.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get into what Matfield said, and trust me, you are going to want to hear this because it is spicy.
Oh, it is.
I need to tell you right now, if you want to stay on top of this chaos, make sure you subscribe to Rugby Obsession. We're tracking this story almost hour by hour, so hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss a thing.
Please do, because things are moving fast, and the implications for the whole global game are just huge.
Okay, so let's unpack this. We have this void in New Zealand. Razor's out, CEO's out, everyone's panicking in the streets of Auckland. And then you have Sir John Kirwan and Victor Matfield sitting down to talk.
And Kirwan drops this little bomb. He says jokingly, I heard Rassie applied for the job.
Rassie Erasmus,
Yeah.
the Springbok coach, the double World Cup winner, the arch enemy, basically.
Great rival.
Exactly. And Matfield, quick as a flash, doesn't even blink. He says, and I'm paraphrasing a little here, he's probably the only one that can save New Zealand rugby at the moment.
Can you even imagine that? A Springbok legend telling an all-black legend that their only hope is the South African mastermind.
It's incredible. The irony is just, it stops you in your tracks.
Yeah.
But what's so fascinating here is that, underneath the joke, there's this immense layer of respect.
Absolutely.
Matfield is essentially saying that the mess in New Zealand is so big, it requires a figure of Rassie's stature to fix it. He's acknowledging that New Zealand doesn't just need a coach.
They need a structural overhaul, which is exactly what Rassie did for South Africa. But he did add a very, very important caveat.
Ah, the money.
The money. Matfield said, maybe he will come. You'll have to pay him a lot.
I mean, backing up the Brinks truck for Rassie Erasmus to coach the All Blacks. It sounds like the plot of a science fiction movie,
Yeah.
but it just shows how high Rassie's stock has risen.
He is the standard bearer right now. He really is. And it highlights the contrast. South Africa has this stability, this Rassie system that works from the youth level all the way up.
And New Zealand is searching for answers in the dark.
But this conversation between them, it pivoted to something much more serious. And this is where I think we get to the real meat of the issue. Matfield had a theory about why Razor failed.
Yes, and this is where it gets really interesting for me. Because we all thought Razor was the chosen one, right?
Of course.
He dominated Super Rugby with the Crusaders. He had the trophies, the breakdancing, the vibes. Matfield compares this situation to Heyneke Meyer with the Springboks.
Which is a brilliant comparison, though it might be a bit of a deep cut for some of our listeners. So let's break that down.
Yeah, let's.
Heyneke Meyer was incredibly successful with the Bulls franchise in South Africa back in the late 2000s. He built a dynasty there. But when he took over the Springboks, he He struggled.
And why was that?
Matfield argues that Meyer tried to take that specific Bulls culture, which is very direct, very physical, a kick-heavy game plan, and basically force-feed it to players from the Stormers and the Sharks.
And those guys play a completely different game, right?
Completely different. The Stormers are about flair and running. The Sharks are different again. Matfield is saying Meyer tried to install the Bulls operating system onto Stormers hardware, and the whole system just crashed.
It's a square peg, round hole.
Exactly. And Matfield is suggesting Razor fell into the exact same trap. He came from the Crusaders, where they have had a very specific way of doing things, a very experienced squad for, 10 or 15 years. They were a machine.
The Crusaders' way. It's like a religion down there.
It is. It's about defensive systems, work rate, everyone being a perfect cog in the machine. But then you get into the All Blacks camp. You've got guys from the Blues, the Chiefs, the Hurricanes.
All with different cultures, different styles.
Right. The Blues guys thrive on individual brilliance and expression. The Chiefs play high-tempo, sort of chaos rugby. Matfield's argument is that Razor tried to impose that rigid Crusaders culture on the national team, and the other guys just couldn't or maybe wouldn't fit into it.
That makes so much sense. You hear about team culture all the time, but usually people think it just means everyone getting along or having a beer together.
Uh-huh.
But Matfield's saying it's about systems. It's about identity. If you try to make a Blues player act like a Crusader, you're just going to get friction.
And it connects to the bigger picture of coaching at test level.
Yeah.
It's not just about tactics, it's about integration. You have to blend these different tribes into one nation. It seems Razor, for all his brilliance, might have been too tied to the system that made him famous.
He was trying to turn the All Blacks into the Super Crusaders.
And the locker room rejected the transplant.
It's wild to think about. You win everything at the club level, but the national job is just a different beast.
Before we dive into the numbers, because the stats here are actually mind-blowing and contradict this idea he was failing, I want to pause.
Okay.
I want to know what you, the listener, think. Is Matfield right? Was it a culture clash? Or is the idea of Rassie Erasmus saving the All Blacks just the funniest thing you've heard all year? We really want to hear your theories. Definitely. Is the Crusaders' way the problem, or is that just an excuse? Drop us a comment or send us a message.
And while you're thinking about that, this is your second reminder to subscribe to Rugby Obsession. We're going to be breaking down the next coach, whoever that poor soul might be, so make sure you're subscribed. You won't want to miss that analysis.
So let's look at the numbers, because this raises a huge question. Was Scott Robertson actually doing a bad job?
This is the crazy part. If you just looked at the scoreboard, you would think this guy was safe for another 4 years.
His win rate was 74%.
74%. In any other sport, in any other country, that is a keep your job number. You build statues for guys who win 3 out of every 4 games.
It's incredibly high. To put that in context, let's go back to Rassie Erasmus, who Matfield calls the best of all time in South Africa.
Right.
Rassie's win rate is 75%.
Wait, hold on. So you're telling me there is a 1% difference between the guy who is just fired in disgrace and the guy who is considered the savior of the sport?
Statistically, yes. They are almost identical, which tells us this firing was not about results on the pitch.
No way.
You don't sack a 74% coach just because of a couple of tight losses. There had to be something else, something
Agree.
internal.
And this brings us to the Ardie Savea factor. Matfield pointed this out. And for me, I think this is the smoking gun.
I agree 100%. Matfield mentioned a rumored rift between Razor and Ardie Savea. Now, we have to be careful with rumors, but it's Matfield's analysis of Ardie's character that gives this so much weight.
Right, because Ardie isn't known as a diva. He's not the guy leaking to the press because his hotel room wasn't nice enough.
Not at all. Matfield describes him as well-respected, not an arrogant guy, and very down-to-earth. He's a soldier. He's the guy who puts his head down and just works.
Plays anywhere you ask him to.
Anywhere. So Matfield's point is, if a guy like Ardie Savea, who is senior, respected, and totally low maintenance, if he's unhappy, then you have a serious, serious problem.
It's the canary in the coal mine. If the nice guy is complaining, the house is probably on fire.
Precisely. Matfield said, the moment I saw the article of Ardie Savea not being very happy with Razor, I knew there was going to be trouble. In New Zealand rugby, player power is a real thing.
A very real thing.
And it usually manifests through these senior leaders. If the captain or the talisman isn't buying what the coach is selling, the tenure is doomed, regardless of a 74% win rate.
It really shows that at this elite level, emotional intelligence and managing a locker room are almost more important than the game plan.
It seems so.
You can have the best strategy in the world, but if Ardie Savea thinks you're forcing a square peg into a round hole, you're gone. The board had to choose between their star players and the coach.
And that brings us right back to the culture argument. If the Crusaders' way alienated the leaders from other franchises, that rift was just inevitable. The environment became toxic, and New Zealand Rugby decided to pull the plug before the scoreboard really started to show it.
So looking at the broader context, it's not just the All Blacks making headlines. There's some peripheral noise around Rassie Erasmus too, right?
Yeah.
It's not all sunshine and rainbows for the Springboks either.
Well, Rassie is Rassie. Even while he's being touted as the savior of the All Blacks by Matfield, he's getting slammed in the press for what some are calling childish social media posts.
Oh, Rassie on on X is a genre of its own. It's all circles drawn on videos and sarcastic captions.
It is, and it shows that contrast again. On one hand, you have this coaching genius who understands the game better than anyone. On the other, his online behavior can sometimes look a bit, well, undignified.
But he's also fighting for a global calendar, pleading with World Rugby.
He's a complex figure. He's
Yeah.
not just a suit in a box. He's an active disruptor.
Yeah.
And we also saw Wayne Pizak popping up saying the Springboks are not unbeatable.
Which is true. No team is. But Pivat's comment just adds to the spice of the rivalry, doesn't it?
It really does. The All Blacks are restarting from scratch, looking for a new identity, while the Springboks are seemingly at the peak of their powers despite the odd social media drama.
So what does this all mean for the greatest rivalry?
It means we are entering a fascinating period. New Zealand is vulnerable in a way we haven't seen in decades. They are stripping it down to the studs. They need a CEO, a coach, and they need to unify a fractured culture.
And South Africa is the benchmark.
Exactly. The dynamic has completely flipped from where it was 10 years ago.
It's a total role reversal. I can't get over the stats, though. 74%. It really haunts me. It proves that the all-black jersey isn't just about winning.
It's about how you win.
And who is with you when you win. That seems to be the takeaway. The environment matters more than the scoreboard.
It has to be.
So as we wrap this up, let's just recap. We've got New Zealand Rugby in absolute chaos, razor gone, CEO gone. We've got Victor Matfield and Sir John Kirwan joking, but not really joking, that Rassie Erasmus is the only man for the job.
And we have this compelling theory that Razor's failure was due to trying to clone the Crusaders culture onto a national team that just couldn't fit that mold. The square peg problem.
Plus the pivotal role of Ardie Savea. The unhappiness of a good man brought down the whole regime.
A classic tragedy, really.
So here's a provocative thought I want to leave you with, something to mull over before our next deep dive. If a 74% win rate isn't enough to save a coach because the culture is wrong, have we reached a point in professional sports where the vibes are actually more important than the results? And honestly, if Rassie is too expensive and too South African, who on earth actually can unite the Blues, the Chiefs, and the Crusaders into one team? Is that person even out there?
That is the million-dollar question, or maybe the multi-million-dollar question if you're trying to hire Rassie.
Exactly. Listen, this story is not over. The fallout from this is going to last for months, maybe years. We will be here to cover every twist and turn. So please, if you haven't already subscribed to Rugby Obsession, we need you on the team.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive, and we'll look forward to you listening to our next episode.